Welcome. Well, as you can clearly see, I'm no longer on the ship. Pulled in this morning, went and saw the doctor for a few things, and now we're on our way to Adelaide, hometown, or at least my town of birth. I live in Sydney now. So on the way to Adelaide, we're going to stop off at a few places, and the first place is just behind me here, and it's the Bradman Museum. So we're going to have a look at that today. Then we're going to stay overnight in Picton. Maybe have a look at the Railway Museum tomorrow. We'll see how we go. And then we head on to Canberra. So first of all, let me show you the wonderful park. And then I'll show you what I can of the Bradman Museum, if they allow us to film. This is an otherwise unremarkable suburban street. There we go. Yeah, very much standard sort of street you would expect, except that in the middle of the street there's this massive building here, the Bradman Museum, which sits in parklands, so it looks very much out of place. So we're going to go in and have a look. Okay, here's a bit of fun. Fielding positions. Deep fine leg, square leg, and down the bottom is the sweeper. We've got the mid-wicket fast asleep down there. We've got the silly mid-on catching rain, obviously at the gather. We've got a leg slip and of course the compulsory bin keeper. The deep fine leg with his wonderful accommodation. The fly slip, the first slip. The third man, obviously very tasty for an afternoon snack. Second slip taking it easy. The very silly mid-on. The second slip, very much lounging around. The gully's certainly growing in his role, for sure. And I don't know what the point is, but obviously it's something to do with the washing. And you'll see the washing at cover point. And of course, then they've got at cover the pair of trousers, not to mention the extra cover. I'm not sure if that's a spider or a bird or something on the tree there, that extra cover. Then we've got the mid-off, which is of course the barbie, where we can grow the veggies a bit later on. And then of course the bowler, and the bowler is bowling to the batsman. So there you have it, the full complement of fielders in the backyard. And here's some protective equipment, a la 1804 to 1892 style. Certainly very impressive protection there, for sure. Okay, now is an appropriate moment for me to mention that I have been given permission to film in the Bradman Museum, whatever I feel is appropriate, on the proviso that I mention to please come and support the museum if you have an opportunity to do so. So here we go.
In 1927, John Bradman burst onto the Australian stage, scoring a century in his first Sheffield Shield match at the age of 19. The boy from Ballard sends field crowds everywhere, breaking records at home and abroad. To Australians, he was a hero, a country boy made good, a symbol of promise in a time of fear and anxiety brought by the economic hardships of the Great Depression. By the time of the
hardest nut for the MCC team to crack will be the indomitable John Bradman. His form in the preliminary matches of the present tour has not lived up to our memories of him over here. But we have a suspicion that the little wizard with the willow may pull out something special for the test. Harold Larwood will be putting down his expresses which may, or may not, dismiss this wonder batsman equally again.
Facing probable defeat at the hands of the young Bradman, England captain Douglas Jardine took action. He was convinced that Bradman had occasionally flinched against short pitch bowling during his tour of England in 1930. So Jardine instructed his bowlers to bowl at the batsman or down the line of the body. In the time before batsmen wore protective equipment, this was viewed as dangerous and unfair. The Australian press got the tactic following. Fieldsmen were strategically positioned on the leg side to entrap a batsman who risked both injury and the loss of his wicket while protecting his body. The third test in Adelaide was one of the most acrimonious ever played.
The taxi-tax round saw England take the field for Australia's first innings at Adelaide. Larwood is faster today than ever, and this slow-motion study reveals his action very clearly. He is in great form and bowls to a leg pass to which Bradman falls a victim when he has only scored 8. Australia are not in a very happy position.
Australia's captain Bill Woodfull was struck over the heart by a sharp delivery, and Bert Oldfield suffered a fractured skull. There were two teams out there, Bill Woodfull stated. One is trying to play cricket, the other is not. However appalled he may have been, Woodfull refused to retaliate and further tarnish the game he loved. Only the police presence in Adelaide prevented a riot. The Australian Board of Control for International Cricket called for a ban of bodyline and sent a telegram to the Marylebone Cricket Club, the keepers of the laws of the game. Bodyline bowling has assumed such proportions as to menace the best interests of the game. In our opinion, it is unsportsmanlike. The English refused the request, demanding a retraction and threatening the finances of the Australian game by suggesting the series be cancelled. Many in England thought the Australians were exaggerating the dangers and trying to redefine what they called leg theory. With emotions on both sides running high, the controversy suddenly spread to the political arena. The Australian Prime Minister, Joseph Lyons, feared animosity direct towards his homeland could lead to a boycott of Australian imports by British consumers at the height of the Depression. Lyons intervened, meeting with the Australian cricket authorities to demand a retraction and ensure any further correspondence not add fuel to a raging fire. One of the men at the centre of the controversy was Harold Larwood. His exceptional fast bowling served as Jardine's greatest weapon. Larwood, along with opening partner Bill Bose, menaced the Australians throughout the series. Unlike the Australians, England's cricketers were a mix of professional and amateur. If professional cricketers refused their captain's instructions, they risked disciplinary action. Larwood was a professional and bowled where he was told. Gubby Allen, an amateur fast bowler, defied Jardine and refused to bowl bodyline, which he felt was not in keeping with the spirit of the game. Following the series, the game's governors in England sought to offset the negative way the matches had been conducted. But instead of holding their captain to account, they requested that Larwood apologise for his bowling throughout the series. Larwood refused, outraged at the suggestion that he be penalised for following orders. He was never selected to play for England again. In 1950, after his retirement, he and his family settled in Australia. With the use of bodyline, Jardine succeeded in bringing down not only the number of Bradman's runs to an all-time Test series low, but more significantly, the social and political bond between two nations. England won the Ashes 4-1, but their victory is forever tainted by the saga, which led to a revision of the laws, thereby restricting the number of fieldsmen behind square leg. Bodyline still has a powerful resonance within the world of cricket today.
And there we have it. Okay, so how did he play his cricket? Let's find out. Just a reminder, I have permission to do this, as long as I encourage you all to come and visit, those who can.
They're even prouder of this than they are of their milk and butter. And when Don goes past, the cows climb up a tree and wave. And he goes past frequently on his way to the old Bradman home. Like a big schoolboy, he gallops up the path with his father and mother, and you've got to give them some credit for sending Don in. Then they think of the old Bradman home. Perhaps the brass plate will tell the world someday that this is where Bradman first held the bat. And this is the first wicket he ever defended. A big iron fence. Here as a kid,
he used to bounce the ball and then try to hit it on its return with a single cricket thump. You can imagine how that ball bounced from the round surface of the tank, as full of angles as Euclid's test hedgehog. Bradman never knew which way that ball was going to twist and dart next, and trying to follow its flight gave him an eye like a gimlet and wrists like quicksilver. Perhaps some other young Bradman may learn these secrets and practice them at his own pace. Trying to hit a ball with a stump like this would seem about as hopeless as catching sharks with a safety pin. But Bradman never gave up, and one day he found he simply couldn't miss. So that later on, when they gave him a real bat like this to use, it must have seemed ridiculously easy for him to hit everything that came along. And compared to a ball bounced from a round cake, rivets, corkscrews seemed a gift. A boy who is used to batting like this can afford to smile at demon bowlers. But come for a walk, and Don Bradman will reveal to you yet another secret of his early cricket. Bradman is one of the finest fieldsmen in the world today. Here's the university where he was trained, a paling fence, and no cricketer ever throws wicket a ball than a paling fence. At the bottom of the fence you will see a curved rail. Against this rail, for days on end, Bradman would throw a golf ball and then try to catch it as it came whizzing back. Of course, he had a smiling audience at the grandstand. Hello, Dad. But if you stick at this sort of practice long enough, the day will come when you'll be able to catch anything from measles to a seagull. Bradman combines with his batting genius a deadly and unceasing eagerness in the field. No ball is safe that goes within a dozen yards of his magic hand, as England's batsmen have found out so often in the past. Training like this took young Bradman into the local team. On Saturday, they played here at the Little Barrel Oval. You'll see his name in the scorebooks of those matches, a pencil scroll of history. Who would have visioned then such a leap as this to the awful and sacred surroundings of the Sydney cricket ground? And who could have seen that little barrel boy bobbing bare head to the thundering pavilion, whilst on the board, frantic scorers try to keep pace with his paces? No batsman should ever go into bat without batting gloves and leg guards. They may quite easily prevent a broken finger or badly injured knee. Bradman is very particular about the fastening of these pads. They may have to accompany him through a double century. Listen in, England. And see what care he gives to the gloves are properly adjusted and well fitting. This always gives the batsman a tremendous amount of added confidence as well as comfort. It will be seen that he keeps his two hands touching on the bat handle. The dead center between the thumb and first finger of the right hand coincides with where the bat handle goes down the center of the blade. The position of the left hand should never be shifted under any circumstances when making strokes. Now watch Don give an odd batsman in batting, the most perfect batsman that the game of cricket has evolved. Notice how carefully he takes block and marches plainly on the pitch. Back cut. See how he gets well across with the right foot and gets the bat running almost parallel to the line of flight of the ball at the moment of contact. Square cut off right foot. Square cut off left foot. Notice when hitting the ball how the wrists automatically turn the bat over, thus hitting the ball down. Off drive. The cover drive necessitates quite a big movement across the wicket with the left foot getting well over the ball. Forward leg glance. Back leg glance used for short balls on leg side of wicket. Notice how that is turning in order to direct ball where desired. Hook shot. Full shot. Made of short pitched rising ball. Just notice how Don gets right across the wicket behind the ball. The on drive. The back defensive shot.
the forward defensive shot. Forcing shot off back foot. Another forward defensive shot. Notice how the right toe is kept about an inch behind the crease. And now Don will show you the difference in bowling a leg break and a bowsy is not in the grip, but entirely in the position of the wrist as the ball is delivered. The ball is spun the same way by the fingers, but owing to the position of the wrist having been altered, the ball is revolving in the opposite direction as it is projected through the air. Leg break. Bowsy. Another leg break. And here is the bat itself, used in making 299 not out for Australia against South Africa in Adelaide 1932. The highest score ever made in a test match in Australia. And there aren't any broken edges. Where a Prime Minister would need a letter of credit, all Bradman requires is a ball to hit and a bit of wood to hit it. And here are the scores of a record maker who has written our name in electric letters on every scoring board in the world. Though we say goodbye to the sleuth, Tom Bradman, we'll see him again amongst the centuries when the kangaroo and lion fight their next test match. Goodbye and good luck, Bradman. May the duck never lay eggs on your doorstep.
Of course, the other big event in cricket is the World Series, and the infamous helmet there from Tony Gregg and various other equipment worn during that series. And of course there's a huge display here about the revolution, the establishment, all the advertising, including the iconic "Come On Aussie, Come On" song that was used to promote it. And we head into the more modern world of cricket as well. But for now, let's just have a bit of a look at what's in here.
A combination of negative press and an exciting official cricket board series between Australia and India, World Series cricket seemed to flounder.
Hey Andrew.
Many people expected Packer to pull the plug after season 1 and were surprised
Has it just started,
when
or?
it came back bigger
About halfway through, about 10 minutes.
Oh, is
A
it? Okay.
family-friendly marketing campaign was launched, focusing on the draw card player personalities. Coloured uniforms, white balls, and drink cards gave the game a makeover, and women were allowed into the men's lounge for the first time. Day-night matches, which proved a popular experiment the first year, became more prominent in the second season. A masterstroke was to engage the public through music. Mojo were engaged to write the jingle that became an anthem.
Billy's pound and bound like a machine. I can't see the words in that. Bicycles making divots in the green. She's taking wickets, Roxy's clearing pickets, and the chapel's eyes have got that killer gleam.
For the Channel 9 audiences at home, many more cameras were on the field to get a view of the game. Cameras showed action from behind the bowler's arm at both ends of the pitch, and with exciting new features like stunt microphones, classic catches, and slow-motion replays, Channel 9 set a new standard in sports broadcasting. A pivotal moment occurred after an agreement was reached with the Sydney Cricket Ground Trust that would see 6 massive light towers built around the ground. On November the 28th, 1978, the first World Series match under lights was played on a traditional Australian cricket ground.
Unbelievable. I think two things stand out to me that night. It was that Kerry Packer threw open the members' gates and let the mob in off the street. I reckon that was fantastic. And I think perhaps Eddie Barlow summed it all up. He came into our dressing room afterwards, had tears in his eyes, and said, "We've made it." And we had. That was that.
Meanwhile, the official Australian cricket team faltered, and test crowds dwindled in favour of the colour, pace and quality of Packer's one-dayers. Packer took the one-day format and used it more successfully and ambitiously than the authorities. It became obvious that a parallel competition was unsustainable.
And the board has accepted in principle an offer from PBL Sports Proprietary Limited involving exclusive television rights for the Channel 9 network for the next 3 years.
Channel 9 continued to invest heavily in technology to deliver the best coverage of cricket to the spectator. In the following seasons, as trust and relationships were slowly restored, the Cricket Board, their state affiliates, players and journalists would debate the benefits and detriments of what was to become the most significant revolution of the game. The first team that represented Australia under the combined arrangement contained 8 World Series and 3 board players. There was a new generation of fan attracted for the shorter form of the game. Packer had taken the old and turned it into a product fit for the media age. A global recognition that the game had a significant broadcast value and that this could be harnessed for revenue would go on to benefit the game beyond everyone's expectations. A new, innovative era of cricket had arrived, which launched the Benson and Hedges World Series Cup. These one-day international tournaments influenced future World Cup tournaments, and the ICC progressively introduced nations such as India, Pakistan, New Zealand and Sri Lanka to one-day international competitions. Kerry Packer's legacy remains imprinted in not only how the game is televised today, but how it is played around the world.
I think every cricketer should, at some stage in his life, and maybe once a year, turn from wherever he is in the world towards Kerry Packer's grave and say, "Thank you, Kerry." It would not have happened otherwise.
So let's just go through the Cricket Hall of Fame. Sydney Barnes, Bill O'Reilly, Dennis Lilly, Sir Richard Hadley, Imran Khan, Mutaya Murathan, and of course next to him Shane Warne. Hello neighbour. Naturally Sachin Tendulkar, and of course can't not have a wicketkeeper, Adam Gilchrist. Master Blaster himself, Vivian Richards. Fantastic opening batsman, not wearing his classic floppy white hat, but anyway, that's Sunil Gavaskar. Best all-rounder ever, opens the batting, opens the bowling, and even is a brilliant fielder, Sir Garfield Sobers. Graham Pollock, probably the best years of his life were omitted because of apartheid cricket. But there we have it. George Headley, often described as the Black Bradman, West Indian cricketer, and probably the first of many great West Indian cricketers. Of course, here's another great old West Indian cricketer, Sir Frank Worrell. Definitely not West Indian cricketer, England's Walter Hammond. And of course, a great opening batsman, Jack Hobbs. Victor Trumper. And a figure that doesn't really need description, William Gilbert Grace, W.G. Grace. And of course, the greats of the game, and the very reason we're here at this museum, Donald Bradman, Sir Donald Bradman. names, but these are all the inductees. We'll go through them very slowly, and you can pause them if you need. But I do find one very interesting entry here, which we'll get down to in just a moment. And that's this one down the bottom here, Malcolm Marshall. A bit confused about which country Malcolm Marshall comes from. Of course it is the West Indies, but actually, I'll show you in a moment what it says. Okay, so let's zoom in. Okay, yes, it says West Indies, but underneath you could perhaps just make out that he's apparently Australian. Ah, dear. Now, it's true that Malcolm Marshall spent a long time living in Australia and certainly spent a long time here, but he definitely wasn't Australian, although obviously his mark is indubitably left in Australia. And that was the original set of Hall of Fames. Of course, here's the ones that have been added in the recent years. Fred Spofforth, notice 1877, Demon Spofforth. They're the ones that were added. Here's the ones that were added in 2014. And I'm not sure where the rest are. That's rather interesting. Well, if I find them, I'll show you them, but they seem to be here. Okay, so that was the inside of the Bradman Museum. Let's now go for a walk around the outside. So a very large parkland, and I can hear the crack of cricket bats. Someone's in the nets, I think. The nets are just straight ahead there. And if we turn around, there's the oval. Let's go and have a look. There's the nets, and this is a panorama of this beautiful cricket ground with the hills in the background. And there's the hospitality stands, the facilities, and then the old part of the Bradman Museum, which is connected to the new part of the Bradman Museum where we just were a moment ago. So I'm just going to walk through the gardens here. I have to mind where I'm going. Okay, flowers, beautiful, all fully out in bloom at the moment. Please don't ask me what the flowers are. I have no idea. If you know, put it in the comments below, but all I know is they're pretty. And we come around here, and this is what I came around for. Not necessarily his backside, although I'm sure English viewers would appreciate the backside of Donald Bradman. But no, I'd like to think of him coming out to bat, raising his cap. A relatively short man, actually, and that's what he's looking at out there, which is the street we're parked on. So we'll just finish the lap of the museum. Now I think it was my first game that I saw here, was Australia versus England women's game, a test match that was played here quite a long time ago now, before women's cricket became particularly popular. And I sat over there on the rocky wall, and here we are. This is the oval, and there's the hospitality. Okay, so I'll say goodbye from the Bradman Museum. Thanks for watching. That'll probably be almost all for today, although it's only one small thing. I pretty much had an early morning when we got up off the cruise ship at 7 o'clock, and that was about it. So we've been rushing around since then, and I'm going to get back. We're going back to Picton and staying overnight at a hotel in Picton. And if we're filling up to it, tomorrow morning we'll go and look at the thermal train museum. But if we're not, we might just head straight on to Canberra. Alright, so there's our plans, and I'll see you soon.